Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. Jazakallahu khair, brothers and sisters who've joined on time. So let's get started today. Before I get started, when the message from Jilani Bhai came in about the story of Dhul Qarnain, I want to hear from you. I mean, any thoughts that came to your mind that you want to share? How is this related to the topic that we have been discussing? In general, we've been talking about being contributors and not being consumers, right? So what came up to your mind when you saw this topic introduction message that came in from Jilani Bhai? Anyone who would want to unmute and speak up?
Yeah, it's actually when we read the story of Dhul Qarnain, we see, how he grabbed the resources of the world and used it for the Allah's Deen. So from east to west, and it shows, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us there, one guidance that, this dunya is also very important for us, to take the resources to be the number one, so that we will serve Deen at the highest, right? So we'll be able to serve Deen in a best manner. It teaches us that we should be good in every field, in technology, in science, and everything, right? So that, and the final objective is that we'll serve Allah's Deen in the best possible manner. This is one of the, story of this, what I understood, and whatever popped up, in my mind when I got the message.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. Anyone else, brothers and sisters? Okay. So it's a very interesting story. There's a background to it. We'll get into that. But as the expectation that we have set along these sessions, this is not a tafsir session, so I don't intend to get into those. However, there are pointers which set the context and make us, appreciate who are we looking at. After all, the story of Dhul Qarnain is something that we happen to recite every Friday. Right? Pretty much every Friday we recite it. But it just happens that amongst the 4 different sequences that comes along in the Surah Al-Kahf, it's just one of them and we move on. Have you paid attention to the details that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about here? And some of the details that we are looking into, and some of those which one would expect to fall under the category of details and are not even referred to. Along the same lines, I want to remind you of, for example, and this is explicitly called out in the Surah Al-Kahf. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, people quarrel over how many were there amongst the people of the cave. How many were there? Was it 4? Was it 5? Was it including the dog? Was it 6, 7? And everyone who talks about it is in a conjecture. If they are just making it up, there's no one who's sure about it. And the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to convey, or is conveying, is basically that these are not the things that you should be bothered about. There is a bigger thing that we should be bothered about, and something along the same lines is what we will see further when we look at the story of Dhul Qarnain. But even before that, right, when someone talks to you about, let me give you an example. In the past 1 week, if there is a definitive incident that happened in your life, and during the weekend, if you are catching up with your friend, would you try to talk about that one particular incident which made an impact on you? Or would you talk about, I got up in the morning, I got my kids ready, they all went to school, and I went to office, we came back in the evening, we ate and we slept. Would you talk about the mundane things? I don't think so. Correct. We would always stick to something that captures the essence of the week, or something that stands out in the week. Correct. Now, in the grand scenario of things, this universe lifespan is estimated, and this is an estimate that stands among the scientific community. I do not, I am not here to vouch for them or in any manner. So this is just a number as far as we are concerned. It could be bigger, it could be smaller. Allahu alam, Allah knows best. Okay, so this is the estimation, about 13.8 billion years, which is long enough, right? Which is quite long. Amongst these, what's effectively happened is since the universe was formed, it has been expanding and at an accelerated rate, as you know. why are we talking about this? I want to just set the context for you about how grand this universe is and at what scale the events happen in this universe. There are zillions of events literally happening every second across this universe, right? One would have actually heard it's not a recent video or audio track that has been posted. NASA actually posted an audio track probably an year back or a few months back or probably a couple of years itself. I don't recollect exactly the first time I saw it. They posted a audio track of recording what the sound that one would encounter in the space, and one would assume that because there's no medium for sound waves to travel, there is nothing. There's perfect silence in the space, which is not true at all, right? So there is events happening across the universe, not just on Earth, which is populated with living life, right? Amongst these zillions of events that happen every second across the universe, Allah Ta'ala chooses, only if amongst them, if Allah Ta'ala has chosen to talk about a particular set of personalities, it says a lot about them, wouldn't you think? Right? In his speech, he's speaking about very few specific personalities. Amongst those personalities, there are a few who have been spoken about just once. This is especially of significance because you're looking at, if there is a mention in itself is a big thing, amongst which there is a singular instance of something that you have done, not necessarily throughout your life, or you've done it at a particular point of time in your life, that captures the essence of your being, and it's worth enough for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put it in his speech, right? Among such people who've been mentioned only in one place in the entire Quran is Dhul Qarnain alayhi salam. Okay. As I mentioned a moment back, we are not getting into the tafsir details about what the scholars have taught about who was he and such things. You have enough resources on hand to look up. For example, one of the resources that you would find handy is actually, there is a dedicated page about Dhul Qarnain alayhi salam in islamqa.info, which talks about it debunks the common myth that it is referring to Alexander the Conqueror, right? For the very simple reason, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about a mu'min, a Muslim, and not a disbeliever, right? And Alexander, for all we know, was a disbeliever. And not just that, the timelines that you're talking about is way over. This is Alexander actually comes into probably a recent history of it, though it was before the modern era of year counting started. It's still does not align with several qualities that we know for sure about, or Allah Ta'ala has mentioned about Dhul Qarnain. Okay, let's move on. So there must be something special about him. So in the context of what we've been learning, we need to understand what is it and what do we get to learn from it. Before which, let's take a step back here. Let's revisit, where did we stop last time? We stopped at understanding that this is a community that we belong to, where we need to make a transition towards being contributors and not being consumers. One. Second, we cannot find excuses to step back and stand back when there is zulm, fasad that's happening across the world, in our neighborhood, in our country, in our city, everywhere. And we need to step up, and that's part of our responsibility. So we were thinking along these lines, correct? So what do we get to learn from all of this? Sorry, why is this popping up here? It shouldn't be. Can this go away? Okay. Okay. I don't know how to hide this. I'm hoping that you're still able to see my screen. The top part of the screen seems to be covered for some reason. Okay. So the reminder that I gave is about that we are talking about being contributors and not just consumers. So let's move on from there. Okay. This is the story of Dhul Qarnain for us to understand. The brief background that I do want to share is, as it's recorded in the tafsir books, this came up, the whole narrative about Dhul Qarnain was revealed when actually the Makkans, this is during the Makkan period, Makkans went on to the people of the book, asked, okay, here is a man who's claiming to be a prophet. You are the people who know about prophets. You are the people of the book. So you must be knowing a lot of things about them. So help us nail him effectively, right? So the people of the book, the Jews, gave a few ideas. They said, go ahead and ask about three things. One, tell the person about the man who extensively traveled across the world to the east and the west. Ask him to tell about him. Second, tell him about those unknown people, the people about whom we don't know much, but they are of the cave. And the last but not the least, about Ruh. So these were the three questions that they taught them. And the Makkans, like the parrots that they were trying to be, they came along and asked these questions to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay. And lo and behold, as a result of which, to answer all these questions, Surah Al-Kahf was actually revealed. Right? But not getting into further tafsir details, the question that I want to pose in front of everyone here is, why did the people of book specifically inquire about this man? They have, after all, if you look back in the history of the people of the book, the Jews, they have several noted people who've come and gone, several kings, several conquerors, several bad people, good people. They could have asked about any of them. Why specifically about Dhul Qarnain? Anyone?
Because the event happened very long back.
Okay, fair enough. But as you know, the people of the book, actually being a continued community, they have actually had written record of these things for many ages, in fact, which is one of the things that they claim as the reasons for them to be superior. That they've always had an unbroken chain of generation coming along to this day, which is absolutely absurd to think that is the reason of being to feel superior. But so wait, okay, could be one of the reasons. Okay, anything else?
So he's the one who has been talked till the Qiyamah because of the Ya'juj Ma'juj and the action he took, and Allah given him Na'mat to do that, right?
Okay. So he had a role to play in terms of Ya'juj Ma'juj, who were actually a signs of the day of the judgment to come. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. What else? Sorry, I did not hear. I heard only and.
The knowledge of Dhul Qarnain actually was not quite common in other people, with the other people. It was only with the Ahli Kitab.
Okay.
And there was also, they wanted to know the precision, precise answer. Because as the knowledge was only with them, it was not with anybody else, right? It was in their books, right? It was not with anybody else. So had Prophet ﷺ been not a true prophet, it was very difficult for him to answer this question, because the knowledge of this personality was not with anybody else other than Jews and Christians, right? With the precise manner.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else?
So they wanted to test him, right? If he can answer this, and they will test it, match it with their books, and also then they can testify that he's a true prophet.
Okay, but you and I both know, all of us know, that actually they had no intentions of.
Yeah, that's what they had no intention actually. So that they wanted to actually, they thought of, he will, say something which is against the reality, and then they will tell Quraysh he is not a true prophet, and the kind of those things, so that they, yeah.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So in fact, they actually said these words, the people of the book, the people who handed these questions, they told the Makkans that, ask these questions and get back to us with the answers. If it matches, if it actually matches with what we know, then he is a true prophet. They actually told that. And while they said that, they said the second statement was, if that does not, then you deal with him the way you would want to. So they had set that expectation very clearly. But however, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again says in Surah Al-An'am about the people of the book, they recognized Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as they would recognize their own children, right? But they would not accept it, right? So it be. Okay. Okay. So I believe the answer actually lies in something a little more intricate. Yes, there are technical details, there are historical details which prompted them to think that only we knew this information. The accuracy portion being apart, for us, I mean, to understand why specifically him and not several other historical people who were lesser known about, right? So there were many such people who shared history like Dhul Qarnain, historical people, but not known other than the people of the book. He stood actually in the learned people of the the book. He stood with a different position for himself, because one of the reasons being, what was he blessed with? Okay, and what did he do with it? More importantly, right? And for us specifically, the extrapolation of these questions leads us to how did he do it, so that we understand that and what's in it for us. To encapsulate what I'm trying to say here is, while the rabbis who gave these questions, the people of the book, rabbis from the people of the book who gave these questions, had clear intention for specifically asking these three questions, one of the things that stands out specifically about Dhul Qarnain, while being a historical figure and famous, is he was an extremely blessed person. He was blessed with things that we will see as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls out in the Quran, in Surah Al-Kahf, in the narrative about Dhul Qarnain. And more importantly, what did he end up doing with these blessings? Right? And last but not the least, what's in it for us to understand and take away from this in the series of discussion that we are having? Okay. So, quick introduction to Dhul Qarnain. Anyone who'd want to pitch in here? What do you know about Dhul Qarnain?
He's one of the prophet, and his name is mentioned in various religious scriptures like Bible and the Quran.
Okay, okay, that's
And
that's an interesting thing. Okay.
Yeah, and he traveled across various places in globe, and he supported, he maintained the justice, and whoever in suffer, he helped them with various nahmat Allah given to him. One of the notable activity is the one that the protecting the people from the Ya'juj Ma'juj.
Correct. So everything that you mentioned, brother, is pretty accurate, except for the first one, which Prophet ﷺ explicitly called out that I do not know of Dhul Qarnain being a prophet. In fact, there is Sahih Hadith recorded in both Bukhari and Muslim, where Rasulullah told, I do not know whether Tubba was a prophet or not, and I do not know whether Dhul Qarnain was a prophet or not. These are his explicit words. Tubba is the Qawm Tubba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to in multiple, I think 2 times in the Quran. In Surah Qaf, which is often recited from the mimbar on the day of the Jummah. Surah Qaf, which Rasulullah always used to recite on Fridays from the mimbar, and there is Sahih Hadith of several Sahabiyat. In fact, one that I recollect is about, I think, Asma bint Abu Bakr, saying that she actually learned Surah Qaf, not Surah Al-Kahf, Surah Qaf, 50th surah in the Quran. She memorized it just by listening to Rasulullah recite this every Friday. Okay. In the Surah Qaf, there is actually the reference to Tubba, Qawm Tubba, that is Qawm of Tubba, Tubba being the person. And Rasulullah explicitly told, I do not know whether he was a prophet or not. And at the same time, he added, I do not know whether Dhul Qarnain was a prophet or not. Okay. So, leaving that apart, what we do know though, this is exactly where the for lack of a better word, fun comes in, to be honest. I mean, this makes it extremely interesting. We are talking about a person who seems to have done wonders, who's done amazing things, and we don't even have clearly his name mentioned in the Quran, not even his name. And for all we know, what was Ibrahim alayhi salam's father's name? Do any of you recollect? It's in the Quran. Azar, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to his name there in the Quran. And Azar, correct, brother. And we know very well that he was not even a Muslim. In fact, he was, he was a mushrik to the nth degree. He used to make those idols, and he was the promoter of all of this business, right? And here we are talking about a person who strived to serve the deen of Allah, going by the definition that we had a week back when we talked about Ansari Allah, who called themselves as Ansar Allah, if you recollect, being asked by Isa alayhi salam, who are going to help me in the way of Allah or for Allah, right? The answer was Nahnu Ansar Allah. We are helpers of Allah. They did not even say we are helpers of you in the way of Allah. No, they said helpers of Allah, right? So keep that on one side, and here we are talking about Dhul Qarnain going by that, by the same definition. Here he's striving in the way of Allah, and from all the things that I already heard, you've covered several important things that he has done. While we get into the details later on in terms of the blessings, what we did with the blessings, what is it that we need to learn from those, in a very, very broader term, you already captured that he's known for the extensive journey that he carried out and the works that he did during his journeys, right? However, not even his name is mentioned in the Quran. What is called out is his title, which effectively means possessor of two horns. Of course, there is an alternate explanation provided by certain people, because Qarn in Arabic also stands for period or time period, right? So Qarnain, so possessor of two different periods. There are extrapolations in those regard. I don't want to get into it. As I told, this is not a tafsir session, and that discussion is not something that I'm qualified to have, to be very honest. So I'm not going to delve into it. But more importantly, here we are talking about, in a general sense, the Dhul Qarnain translates to possessor of two horns, right? And large consensus among the tafsir and among the mufassirin who have written these tafsir is largely about this. Refers to not necessarily a person having two horns on his head or having something like that. It refers to the journeys that he carried to the two ends in terms of the far east and the far west, which is the sunrise and the sunset points that he covered, and which also sinks in the way he's described, or his life is described, his journey is described in the Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The bottom line for us to take away from here is his work is so significant that Allah did not even mention his name, because the focus at the end of the day needs to be on the work and what we gather from that work, instead on the name in itself. And time and again, this is a notion that gets revisited and re-emphasized in the Quran. Just stepping back, now you will be able to probably able to see how it weighs across the different personalities that we see in the Quran. On one end is the people of the cave. We don't even know the numbers, how many were there, right? We don't even know any further details about them. There are very, very minute details that are provided in that regard. And then there is Dhul Qarnain, whose name is not mentioned, but what he did, what he had, how did he go about doing it, is all given out. And on the extreme other end are people like Azar, right, who have nothing else to boast about, nothing else to talk about, nothing else to do except what they did in this world, right? He might have had a lofty position in his community for sort of the work that he was doing, but he would remain as as a lowly person, effectively as a lowly entity, because of what he did in the akhirah, right? So there is nothing else to talk about except his name. That's the only thing that's going to stick to him, not his work, nothing else. Okay. Just a quick question: is the top bar blocking the screen? I don't know how to hide it. It's bothering me. Is that just so happening that you guys are seeing the top bar here?
No,
we don't see anything.
Okay, fair enough. Then it's
You were saying cover of Zoom.
Sorry, bhai?
The
Zoom bar.
Actually, Zoom that panel where you are seeing those messages, is that?
Yes. Yeah.
You can drag it down. You can just drag it down.
I
if
see.
you want.
Oh yeah. Thanks. Okay. Thanks. Jazakallah. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so now let's delve into the specifics of the description of the travel that Dhul Qarnain took. First and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces him in the Surah Al-Kahf. It starts from the 83rd ayah all the way till 101. Okay, that's the short passage which is dedicated to his journey, what he did all along. Starting with first and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that we are going to narrate a portion of it as if answering back the question that was asked about to tell about Dhul Qarnain. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we established him in the land and gave him means to all things. Okay, let's just spend a moment on this. What does this actually mean, being established in the land? From brief understanding of what all of us have about Dhul Qarnain, what do you think what does this notion mean of being established in a land? What does it mean?
He granted him kingdom of the land.
Okay.
So he got the kingdom, power for the people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also made him the resource also available for for him, so that he will grab it and take it and establish Allah's Deen.
Right. Okay. So the word which comes in the jumla that comes in is kulli shay'in sababa. So this I want you to tie it back to the notion of why are we interested in Dhul Qarnain in the first place? Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about Dhul Qarnain without even mentioning his name amongst all those millions of people, billions of people who've come and gone? There is one person who's being talked about here, right? And expressed. What is it so special about him? Tie it back to what was he blessed with. So this ayah is answering what was he blessed with. In general, he had all the resources at his disposal. So here we are talking about a person effectively having means to all the things. He is a ruler. He has power to conquer. He has shown it already by defeating enemies, and establishing the Deen of Allah across the world. Okay, he had effectively amazing access to a lot of blessings. The question that one needs to ask at this point of time is, are we similar to Dhul Qarnain in terms of the blessings that we have received? I would like to hear from you in terms of the blessings that we have today in the current scenario. What are your thoughts on the blessings that Dhul Qarnain had in comparison to us?
Majority of it we have.
Okay.
Except majority of what I say is it may not include power fully, but as per the things to reach people, we have resources, we have those facilities.
Okay.
As a Muslim community, if you see across, then we have even power also, we have money also, we have communication means also, we have armies also, we have everything. I'm saying almost we have. Yeah.
Okay. So
we have the blessing of technology. He did not have that. He had to travel all over, east to west, west to east, whatever. He had to travel all over the earth. So,
Jazakallah khair, sister. Extremely important point that you bring up. In fact, please continue. Please continue. You were saying something.
That's what I just reflected on that. That's all. I don't know.
It's an extremely important point. So this resource is unmatched. In fact, I personally believe. In fact, when Bhai said that we have all the blessings that Dhul Qarnain had, an alternate perspective that I had instead is we have certain unique blessings that Dhul Qarnain did not have. In fact, one such being technology. It's an amazing blessing, right? The question is, he took these blessings seriously, and as we continue along in the narrative about Dhul Qarnain in Surah Al-Kahf, we see how he took it seriously and how it was recognized. How did he put it to work? The sequence being recognition, then putting it to implementation, and then it gets noted by people who further enhance and provide throw opportunities at you so that you can do more and more and more. And all of that culminates at the end of the day with the notion that I am nothing. The point of ikhlas, that you would say that it's all the mercy of Allah, and that's exactly in a gist how we see the whole narrative of Dhul Qarnain. The question is, have we started this journey? Let alone go along all this track, have we started this journey of identifying the resources that we are blessed with, maybe uniquely blessed with? Have we done that? Right? Question to ask ourselves. Right? So the next step that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about is, so for atba asbaba, this in itself can be talked about for a long time. I actually, when I was talking to Jilani Bhai about this, he had several tangents along to talk about this particular phrase in itself. But in the interest of time, I'm not talking about all of those, but he encapsulated in one single notion that Dhul Qarnain was able to use the resources wisely and correctly. And these are two specific and mutually exclusive elements here. Using it wisely is one portion, which is you can end up being wisely and cunning. You can be very wise about marshalling your resources and be cunning in the outcome that you want to derive from it. Or you could be foolish in your work and expect right results to come out when you have resources, right? Leaving it all, saying that it should somehow come out all along. Or it's a perfect combination of both, which is where you would use your resources wisely for the correct outcome. And that's exactly what Atba Asbaba encapsulates, right? There are many Mufassirin who have talked about what does it specifically mean in terms of keeping Dhul Qarnain's context in picture. It means that he actually pursued different routes to cover the regions that he covered. So for example, he covered the east in one region, while he returned he covered another. So he pursued all of that so that he had the maximum reach, right? But however, what it does tell us about him is he identified where his strong points were, and his strong point was in being able to suppress the zulm and conquer. So in waging battles, he was a proper battle. He was a warrior, and he could lay sieges, he could conquer and ensure that the people are removed from the shackles, right? So that's exactly where his strength lay in. So he used it and he expanded the horizons. He did not say, okay, so I'm going to provide the best possible administration to the lands that I am currently entrusted with. No, he expanded it. And we actually, alhamdulillah, we see this understood in a similar manner by the Sahaba, right? So we have all seen the map of how the expansion of how the boundaries of Islam expanded with each Khalifa, right? From the time of till the time of Rasulullah, and then the righteous caliphs. We see how the boundaries were expanded all along. They could have actually told the people that they were currently administering or governing that, yes, let's make these the best people on earth, and I'm going to be happy. I'm going to sit here and do the best job that I can do as a Muslim, as an administrator, and I'll do adl here. No. They took it in a similar manner where they expanded the horizons because they knew their strength lay in being able to connect with people. The Sahaba were already the Arabs. Their strength actually lay in being able to connect with people, given their trade connectivities that they extensively had across the world. They actually had these relationships and they expanded them. While they had certain routes that they would always go, now they were using the same strength which helped them cover the existing routes to expand the horizons. So as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Quraysh, that Allah protected them during the heat and the cold, from the hunger, the pangs of hunger during these travels. And these travels, when you read through the tafsir of Surah Al-Quraysh, you will understand that this journey that the Arabs used to make from the lands of Hijaz, where Rasulullah, where the Makkah and Medina region falls in, all the way towards Syria, the Sham, which was the famous trade route that they would take. There were many challenges that they would have in different seasons. It was not a single challenge, it was not of single nature. So they had to overcome all of this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds them of the ni'mah of protecting them through these challenges. Right? Amidst all these challenges, the Quraysh had built that sort of skill in them to cover these regions, and this was passed along. This was in their nature now at this point of time. When Islam hit their doorsteps, it was in their nature to connect, to be able to reach places. And what they put in play, what they put to work was effectively use the same strength that they had acquired now for serving the Deen of Allah. It goes back to the same thing of saying, Ansari Allah, being asked about it and answering Ansar Allah, Nahnu Ansar Allah. So they stood up to Rasulullah's call and said, yes, we are going to work. And of course, we all remember the reminder that Rasulullah provided in his last khutbah also, right? So in the khutbatul wada in Arafah, where he reminded people at the end that anyone who is here has the responsibility to convey to anyone who is not here, which has diverse implications, and that's exactly how the Sahaba understood and went about doing it. So coming back to Dhul Qarnain itself, so what did it? So this goes with the second question that we were answering: why Dhul Qarnain is special. First was, what was he blessed with? We just understood that Allah had made him firm in his conviction, firm in his ability, made him recognize his ability and be able to contribute with his ability. Second question was, what did he do with it? And this is the same set of questions that we need to ask ourselves. Recognize, then start implementing, right? So as part of the implementation, he put a plan that this is where my strength lies. So let me expand my horizons, right? The question to ask ourselves is, what does this mean for us? Have we wondered where our strength lies? And based on that, where is our effort going in to expand our horizons to contribute? These are three unique questions one needs to ask themselves. One needs to ask oneself. So while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us, and I want to ask this question to everyone here. Do anyone on this call think that I don't think I'm blessed with anything by Allah, anything, any other skill? Of course, there are many ni'mah that we cannot deny. Breathing, seeing, everything that we have is all ni'mah. But from a skill perspective, right, from anything that we can use to contribute to the Deen of Allah, is there anyone here who would like to say, who would stand up and say that, no, I do not think I'm blessed with anything in the current times that I can use to serve the Deen of Allah? The obvious question then raises is, what have we done to recognize that strength? Have we put in the effort to understand where does my strength lie? Just in this regard, there is about a 4-hour a 4-hour workshop that Jilani Bhai used to conduct till recently. We've also conducted independently after he did it for us, which helps us actually use not just a questionnaire. It's in the form of a questionnaire, but at the end of the day, it has a wise research background to it, based on which the questionnaire has been arrived at. Looking through the answers that we provide, we would map out the nature of the person, where they are able to contribute, where they are strong, right, to identify their strong points. So often we actually end up being told through all our student lifetime that, okay, you seem to be weak in maths, you seem to be weak in English, put some effort there, right? We've always been told that, always by parents, by teachers. Everyone seems to think that we need to focus on the weak subjects The rest of the subjects you seem to be fine, so leave it at that. So there is an alternative perspective to it. The alternative perspective being, there are certain topics that that you don't seem to like, you don't seem to excel in, you don't seem to, put any effort in at all. You don't like it at all. Instead of forcing you to drag yourself through it, why not actually help you excel in what you're already good at? Which is the underlying notion of this workshop, wherein we help you identify your strong points so that you can build on your strength to contribute even more. So that's the whole notion of identifying the strengths. Okay. Last but not the least is, once we've identified the strengths, we do not stop at that point, right? So I've identified my strength to be, see, for example, I'm good at project management. For example, if someone says, yes, I'm good at project management, so I'm gonna be part of some group, help them do it in a more timely fashion, right? But is there where I should stop? Or what does project management take me to? What's the next level of it? Where can I actually contribute in a much more profound manner? Where can I expand the horizons to contribute? Right. So now, moving to the next step of the Dhul Qarnain's journey, Dhul Qarnain al-Islam's journey. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls out that first he traveled towards the west. As I'm not getting into the linguistic details of how it's described. As you know, there are Orientalists who have objections about it, and of course there is enough literature which clarifies that already. About there people call out it's unscientific to say he went towards the direction where sun set, while the sun never actually sets. But it's the way linguistically one would describe. Even to this day, we still say sunset, while everyone knows sun does not set as such. It's the relative motion, which makes us understand it that way. But nonetheless, I'll not get into those linguistic elements. But what does it actually call out about Dhul Qarnain is, he was inspired by Allah to either punish or treat the people whom he met in his journey with kindness. Now, what does this tell us about him? First and foremost, of course, it tells us that he was a just king whom Allah entrusted with this responsibility. What else does it tell about him?
He was always in the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He never did anything, of his own. The guidance was from Allah, and he followed it, and he did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did not misuse his power.
Yeah, that's what.
And
right.
Yeah, he didn't misuse his power, and he treated people of shirk with kindness. Either punish them or treat them with kindness. But he took the path of kindness.
Okay.
Yeah, he impressed with the good deed and protecting from the bad ones.
Okay. What else? Okay. So what does this actually tell us about him? So he had the choice to make it not on personal endeavors or personal thought process. He effectively put the Deen of Allah, the working for Allah, on top of everything, where he was to make a choice that anything which is related to disbelief, and when we say disbelief, it's persistence on disbelief. Please understand, there is a huge difference between disbelief that we see at the top versus persistence in disbelief, right? So he was being a ruler. This is not the general Dai that we are talking about. He is a ruler, so he has a notion of justice that he can deliver with his hands, and that's one of his responsibilities, in fact, not just by tongue. Now he has to deliver justice to the people in general by his hands. So he was given the choice, and he made the choice of dealing with the people who persisted on disbelief, to punish them, right? And reminded them that you have a bigger punishment coming along. when you return to Allah. So three very, very important points. First and foremost, he knowing his position, knowing his strength, knowing his responsibilities, he acted on it, which is he did not do a lip service saying that, okay, I will call the people to call them to the truth and I'll leave it at that. No, he went ahead with it. He went ahead beyond that to take things into his hands as was expected of a ruler. So this reminds us that everyone has a place, everyone has a set of responsibilities according to the role that they are playing at that point of time, right? So he being a ruler, he did not stop at lip service. Instead, he went ahead and took action or where he needed to. Second, he reminded people of the akhirah, saying that you have to return to Allah, and therein lies a bigger punishment. So this is the time for you to wake up. So a very, very important notion for a just ruler is not just using the upper hand to punish, but also use the diligence to remind people so that people understand and return to Allah, right? Because the tawfiq is from Allah, the changing of the hearts, the turning of the hearts is only by Allah, right? Last but not the least, he ensured he did this, which is the punishment portion, only on people who persisted in disbelief, right? So there is a clear message for all of us here in understanding when we sign off, as a Muslim, as a Da'i, lot of times we give up very early, and especially post COVID, I'm getting to see this a lot more. I don't know what is the reason. It could be just people losing touch with the field, or we've sort of given up, or the current mahol itself is making us do this. Allah Alam, I don't know. It could be a mixture of all of this, where we very soon we seem to go to the lakum deenukum waliya deen. That is not so. That is not so. It is not meant to be so. Persistence in disbelief is over a period of time and characterized by certain nature, right? So as a da'i, as a muballigh, as a person who's serving the deen of Allah, it's our duty to ensure that we persist in ensuring that there is watawasaw bil haqq, watawasaw bis sabr, right? Instead of going directly on to saying lakum deenukum waliya deen, to you yours, to me mine. No, a very important message that comes out from the choices that he made, along with which he made the choice of saying that all the people who follow and attend to the call to worship Allah, he reminded the reward is with Allah again. So as a ruler, he could have actually done a number of things for these people. Instead, what Allah specifically calls out amongst what he did is he again reminded people, at the end of the day, your ajr, whatever you are doing, do not expect ajr from a ruler like me. I might be a just ruler, I might be a big ruler, I might be a huge conqueror, but at the end of the day, your reward is with the Malikul Amlak. So the king of the kings is the one who is going to give you the reward. A great reminder that he gave it to the people. Now, having traveled to the west, now his journey is towards the east, because he's the man who actually covered the west and the east, right? So here is where the instance that we all talked about right from the beginning, where he helped the people who could not understand against Yajuj and Majuj. Couple of things here. Again, I'm not going to get into tafsir about what the Mufassirin have told about the specific people and the notion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they could not understand, or Dhul Qarnain could not understand them. Sorry. I'm not going to get into the various opinions that is there about what does it mean that he could not understand. But what is the ibrat that we get from this set of people, that they are not, they are effectively alien to Dhul Qarnain, or Dhul Qarnain alayhi salam is alien to these people here. Yet they are in front of him asking for help. What does it tell us about him? What does it tell about the nature of a contributor here? Dhul Qarnain, covering the world, is standing in front of a people whom he does not understand, but yet there is a message that's being conveyed through his work here, and he is being asked for certain help, right?
Yeah, he been asked the people to support him to come together and do it. So the protection what they made, it is not him alone. Like he given the guidance to the people and make them come together, and they all did it together.
Correct. Yes. So that's exactly the detail that the Quran calls out. That what did they do? First and foremost, he was such a conqueror and such a just person. Now people come to him to ask help. So imagine yourself here. Someone walks into your city as a conqueror, and he's already known as a conqueror. He's conquered, for example, I mean, in older days, if you were to imagine. So Bangalore has Mandya next to it, Mysore, Tumkur, Hassan, and such. So one of the conqueror has covered all these places and walks into Bangalore. We are sitting in Bangalore. What is our first thing? What is the first thought process that we have in our mind about that person? Is it not to safeguard ourselves and our family because there's a conqueror who's coming in? Is that not what we first think about? And I'm not blaming anyone. It's natural to think that way. But here is a person who is conquering everyone all along. He's conquered all the kings along. He's carried the resources that he needs to move further. And that's exactly what means when Allah says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that inna makkanna lahu fil ard. So we made him strong. We made him established in the earth. So wherever he went, he had the resources at his disposal at that point of time. So he carried along whatever he needed. He moved on, and now he's coming as a conqueror to the east. But people are seeking his help. Now take an example. Take this as a mirror example to what happens when the Fathul Makkah happens. Here is a man who was driven out from his house, from the place that he loved the most on the face of the earth. He was the one who was subjugated. He was the one who suffered so much while being in the same city where he was born, right? And please understand, this is 14 centuries back. People knew where they were born, and that is the place that their hearts lay in. Not today's age where people, for the sake of job, education, we move around a lot. That's perfectly fine. Today's world is very different, but still we have that linking, that inkling, that connection to our roots. We still have it. But 14 centuries back, you can imagine how it was. The man was driven out of his home, made desperate to walk out of the city that he loved, right? So much. And when he comes back, and after that also he was not left alone. He was made to go through several troubles. He was made to watch his kith and kin die in front of him in very, very bad manner, right? Like for example in the Uhud or in the various battles that happened. So after all of this, he gets the opportunity to walk into your home, into your city with a huge army that you don't even have the guts to stand up to, let alone fight. You don't even make an attempt to fight. Now you know what's your fate. Your fate is sealed at this point of time. No, I cannot help but draw a comparison between these two here, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving out the sense of of humility, that understanding that Allah is the one who grants everything. He's the one who's in control of everything. I cannot help but understand it from these two parallels that I have. When Rasulullah came into the Makkah, one of the Sahaba says, you all know about this. They said, this is the day of revenge. Al-yawm, what is it? Marhaba, not marhaba, sorry. I don't remember the word. So he says, this is the day of retribution. We take the retribution. We will take revenge for all the things that we have gone through. And probably, as a normal human being, one would be inclined to say something like that, I guess, right? But what did Rasulullah say? He said, no. Today is a day of Murhama. So, Raham, everyone will be forgiven. And no wonder, see the impact on the people who were conquered. They were not physically conquered. I mean, physical conquer is anyway written on the board, but their hearts got conquered. Here is a similar example of Dhul Qarnain, who conquered people all along, and the people who could not even understand, they could not even communicate with him, are people seeking his help, looking for his help for what his legacy is already brought in. His legacy is already telling a story to people that this is a just ruler who's coming in, right? Compare this to where we stand today as a community. I'm not telling this for the sake of historical reasons that he was a great man and all of it. That's whether I say it or not, that remains. But take it into our, I mean, put into our scenario at this point of time, right? And I want to make no excuse here. Please don't understand. You know, for example, I stay in Bangalore. Some of you are dialed in from outside. In probably even in your places, there are areas which has Muslim domination, right? I'm not saying it's wrong, right? No, it's not conquering. It's just by settling down. That's it. But I'm just drawing a parallel here. Do we have a similar situation that we face where people feel comfortable? When I say people, I'm talking about Muslim as well as non-Muslim people feel comfortable because we are in the midst of such people. Question to ask ourselves. When we step up to take care of the community, this becomes a natural consequence of it, that the people around us feel comfortable living with us. They look up to us saying, yes, this person stands up for us if there is anyone who causes, who oppresses us. Anyone who does anything unjustly, this is a set of people who stand for us. Are we those people today? Question to ask ourselves. So while his strength was evident to everyone, people sought his help based on that strength, and he was in his position to help them. But the best part lies in him saying, when the people actually offered a tribute along with the work that they were asking. So they asked for helping them against Yajuj and Majuj, who were doing fasad, right? And then Dhul Qarnain instead steps back and says, yes, I'll do it, but what Allah has given me is way better. This is an acknowledgement of all the resources that he's been blessed with. Now, 2 points. First, the fasad in this scenario was caused by Yajuj and Majuj, right? In that part of the earth. Draw parallels to it to our society today. Are we in a safe and sound society where there is no such thing that's happening? Or are you under the notion, or are any of us under the notion that we are totally safe and sound? We do not have any such fasadic elements amongst us. What are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, I missed your question.
Yeah, the question being, here is a set of people who are talking about the fasad, the people of Yajuj and Majuj who are causing fasad. Fasad as in disturbance in the society, wrong things to happen in the society, right? Drawing parallel to that into our own society, I'm asking a question. Where do you rate our society lies today? Do we face such disturbances in our society today? Or are we saying that, no, we are better off, we are perfectly fine, we have no such problems today?
Definitely, we are facing the troubles within ourselves itself, right? So the first thing, like, we don't have a good opinion about each other. That's the biggest problem what we currently have, for my observation, because we have so much of organizations, we have so many jamaats, we have so many parties, and we all think we are the only one who are doing a perfect job, rest all doing the waste of time, right? That thing need to be changed, like, I mean, we don't need to, unite together everybody. I don't know that going to happen or not, but at least, like, we should not keep the wrong opinion about others and let them do the good job what they do, and we should not duplicate each other. That's what I really feel. And like, do your job what you are doing for Allah. That's what my thought is.
So this is one aspect of it. One aspect looking into the 20% population of this country, effectively, if I were to sum it up in that way, right? We are talking about everything that the brother told just now is about the internal struggle, internal turmoil that we have within 20% population of this country. What about the 80% population? Is there fasad that's happening amongst them? Is there fasad that's happening that is rooted in them? that we see affecting the overall society today, especially today?
Yes, it is happening. Yes.
Huge, more than any day, more than any time that we have probably seen in our lifetimes. In the past 40, 50 years, whatever we have seen in our lifetimes, I do not think we've had such sort of turmoil where there is usage of every ni'mah of Allah to cause disturbance in the society. Everything. I mean, whether it's in generic terms, in talking about the environment, air being a ni'mah, we have caused we've spoiled it, and then in the population, in the general population itself, we have caused trouble, we've caused distrust among people. The social fabric of this country, a social fabric in this society is torn apart today. People see each other with a lot of mistrust. Am I talking Greek or Latin here? I mean, all of us face the same thing, right? For example, within our friend circles itself, someone whom you would have studied with, a Muslim, non-Muslim, you would have seen the sort of understanding that we have had all along growing up, that this land belongs to the people who have contributed, who have lived here all along. But how many times have we heard about this, not just for noted personalities, even for normal people, that we have heard being told, go to Pakistan? Haven't you come across a situation like this? Is this not fasad, first of all?
Yeah, brother, very much.
Very much. So, and I'm not here to, complain about what's happening to the Muslim society alone. No, please don't misunderstand. I'm talking about Muslims being interested as the people who have been brought up for the rest of the humanity. It's our responsibility to stand up when there is fasad. Correct? So, question here is, you cannot stand up unless you know how you can contribute, right? And you cannot contribute unless you recognize where does my strength lie, right? Or what would happen instead is what would happen in certain cases where people out of josh to do things instead of being in hosh, and it backfires, right? So there's a lot of ibrat that is to be gained from the story of Dhul Qarnain alayhi salam, specifically when it comes to the way he handled the people who asked help about Yajuj and Majuj. He understood the fasad. He knew his strength, right? His strength was already understood by people. He stepped up to help them out, and he did not take ajr from them. Instead, he now wanted to empower and enable them to contribute. That brings me to the last portion of this particular section, where it's not good enough for us to recognize our strength, implement what we can contribute in, right? It is also equally important to empower people around us to do the same, right? Here is a scenario where he could have told, yes, okay, fine, let's arrange for certain things. I have manpower, we'll get this built, and yeah, I don't expect anything from you. Allah Ta'ala will give me the ajr. End of the story, right? But what did he do? Instead, he specifically told, I do not want from you anything. What Allah Ta'ala has given is more than enough for me. It's even better. Instead, you help me. Fa'inuni. So you help me with what? With your strength, your work. You put in that work. So now he is not making a dependent qawm here. He is working for their welfare, and he is actually making them understand. This is effectively, in modern terms, if I were to say, this is knowledge transfer that's happening here. Simple, right? As the saying goes, instead of fishing, instead of giving a fish to a person, teach him fishing, right? So the qawm could have been, he could have just built the wall and said, no, now we are safe, tata bye bye, and he could have gone. But no, instead he involved them in this endeavor. The message to us is, while we are going through a personal journey of recognizing our strength and using it to serve the Deen of Allah, The next step, the next logical step of this journey should be to first and foremost not keep this learning to ourselves. We need to ensure this has to be passed on to people. This needs other people's involvement. Very, very important. And this also brings back to the first point that brother made about the lot of disturbance and divisions that we have within our community itself. A lot of mistrust within the community where we think that, everyone thinks, not just one, everyone thinks I am the only one who's right and everyone else is wrong. Right? Everyone, pretty much every Jamaat probably works the same way. Yeah, there are a few exceptions here and there who do accommodate others, but very rare. Right? Instead, see the collective strength where if I'm able to contribute in a particular stream and I see someone else contributing in another stream, can I complement them? Can I build something more from an outcome of mine in terms of people or devices or system process, which is the best thing that you can deliver, that can help another Jamaat that is working on a parallel activity? All of this is up to us, but we choose not to. Right? Time that we actually start pondering over this.
Yeah, if you allow me, brother, I'll make one note, small note. There is a revert sister who mentioned, like I am hearing her audio. She was in a school and they had a Muslim friends. She was complaining, she is currently working in Saudi Arabia and she reverted and she accepted Islam, mashallah. And she's giving a message to the Muslim society that I was in a school. There were 5 Muslim friends. They did not teach me about Islam. And they did not tell me what Islam is. I thought like it's a Sami and Saraswati, same like Allah also. And she's telling I was in a college, I had these many Muslim girls friends. They did not tell me about Prophet. I thought like a Prophet is a spiritual leader. But she's telling that later I come to know he's a life coach for everyone in this world. Absolutely. So we did not give the message of Prophet. We did not propose him as like the world leader of everyone, right? In everything he mentioned the guidance, right? That we did not expose nature and like other things.
Yeah. So extremely good point that you made, brother. That is very true. In fact, one of the endeavors that we should actively do in the current times is to be able to link back Rasulullah's teachings to everything that happens around the world today, especially in this day, especially in these times. We've had several conservative thought process for some time in terms of where people came up with these environment day, this day, that day, blue day, green day, and all those days. And we used to think, this does not make any sense. It has no relevance as such. But please understand, while they might restrict it to a particular day, Rasulullah did not restrict his teachings related to that topic for a particular day. So if we are getting a platform to talk about it only one day in 365 days, I would say choose it, take it, and ensure that the message gets conveyed to people of what Rasulullah stood for as far as that aspect is concerned. If someone insists that I kick my mother for 364 days, but one day I'll celebrate Mother's Day, I would say it's perfectly fine to go ahead and talk to him about mothers on that day. If he's going to listen only on that day, it's so be it. That's perfectly fine. I'm not talking about an individual, but we know for a fact today, in the larger society today, the elderly parents are not treated well. They are not taken care of. It's a very bad situation, as you know. The number of the elder care centers are on the rise. In certain states, it's gone through the roof. In fact, some of the states which have better standard of living, it's in fact increasing too much, right? So if they want to celebrate it only on one day, somehow to show that to the world probably that I love my mother or I love my father, let's talk about, let's not even leave that opportunity out. Yes, we do not believe that there is a Mother's Day or there is a day to celebrate the greatness of a mother. Absolutely not. We have 365 days to do that. But if your intended audience chooses to hear you only one day, it's perfectly fine. Let's be vocal about what Rasulullah has to say, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told about the martaba of parents, the state of parents in the Quran. If it's accepted by them on one day, we will take that opportunity to do that. Very good point. Yeah. Okay. So, in the interest of time, I will move on now. So, what does this this journey to the east and his interaction with the people who were asking for his help tell us about. It does remind us that your work for Allah, it does not need public attention, right? Please understand, but it's quite possible it might get it anyway. And that is where your shield, our shield at that point of time is ikhlas, right? All the public attention should not waver us from the sole reason that we are doing this, right? As long as that is clear, you get the stages of this world, it's perfectly fine, no problem. Okay, so that's where it becomes a fitna versus an enabler. This whole public attention can become a fitna versus it can become an enabler. It can take you to stages where people are eager to hear you. There are larger audiences that you can talk to. And when I say larger audience, I'm not talking about any staged event here, not necessary. Now, given the technology that we have today, for example, sitting in your home, people have 1 million followers who are ready to listen to you. You don't have to spend 1 crore to hire and set up a stage today. That's not required at all. From your home, without even spending a penny, your one line catches the attention of 1 million people across the world today. Excuse me. But all that's needed there is clarity in the sense of why am I doing it there, right? It's extremely important. That's where the ikhlas comes in to make this an enabler. Second point that I personally take away from this this portion of the journey is opportunities do come our way. Okay, opportunities do come knocking at our doorsteps. The point being, we should not shy away from it. The reason I'm saying this, because the often told notion is opportunities don't come knocking at your doors. You have to go searching for them. Well, if you are creating opportunities, yes, you certainly need to walk around, but please understand, as long as the mindset is in there and you're committed to serve the deen of Allah, there will be opportunities that come your way as per your capabilities. We need to not shy away from it. Okay, step up and take it up. Last but not the least is about the ajr. It's an extremely crucial aspect, because in the journey of serving the deen of Allah, the culminating point oftentimes is about the ajr, right? And the two crucial points that I take back for myself is this: ajr can be anything that's expected in return or as an outcome that involves others other than Allah. Okay, it could be as simple as a smile, a word, a praise, a handshake, a tap on the back, a pat on the back, or it could range to many other things, right? All of that could be seen as ajr on one side, while the other way of seeing the ajr is simple. You need to certainly expect, but expect it only from Allah. And that's the key message that Dhul Qarnain provided. He was already blessed immensely by Allah, and he acknowledged it, saying that I have better what you can give me. I have something better than what you can give me. It's an extremely crucial point as part of serving the deen of Allah. Okay. Now the question, after hearing this all, is, I want to pose this question to everyone. Are we blessed like Dhul Qarnain alayhi salam? I heard some of you saying, yes, we have things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, but specifically after having gone through the journey that he went through, I want to reiterate this question: are we blessed like Dhul Qarnain alayhi salam?
Yes, brother. I just want to put one note here that we are blessed with like Dhul Qarnain, but most of the time we don't spend to realize that. One small example: I've been into this industry like IT and internet for almost 20 years, but I never had a habit of putting a status or anything. But very recently, in the past session, I come to know that the WhatsApp status can be a good way to propose our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam messages. So I started doing for last 10 days. MashaAllah. I'm just sharing this experience for you to know that I have many non-Muslim friends in my contact list. Minimum 200 people are watching my status, and I receive thumbs up from many non-Muslim for Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam messages. I put about anger, I put about personal emotions, I put about mental health, I put about save water. Mashallah, mashallah, I'm really encouraged. I just sharing my experience.
Mashallah. I mean, this is live example that we are hearing, right? This is real live experience that we see. And please understand, none of this is actually small. There is no such thing as that. Effort is what matters first and foremost. Second, every work towards serving Deen of Allah is great in the sight of Allah. We are no one to judge, or we are no one to qualify or anything like that. All of this carries weight. Alhamdulillah. Now, if your answer is yes, that we are blessed like Dhul Qarnain, then my question to you, follow-up question to you is, what are your expansion paths? He found his expansion paths. He did not leave a piece of land. He expanded towards west. He expanded towards east. I don't know which else direction would he go in, right? He covered all of it, right? And he did all that he could do. And second question to ourselves is, after having recognized our expansion paths, are we pursuing them as he did? It's not good enough that we understand, for example, I come with, someone says, I come with marketing skills. Okay, I can step in to do save water project during Rabiul Awwal, for example. There is something that someone is promoting. We will do a save water campaign at that point of time. Okay, fair enough. But what beyond it? You would not stop at that if that was your career. How are you expanding? Have you looked at what expansion paths that you have for the rest of the 11 months? In Rabiul Awwal, yes, you are part of the project, and you said, yeah, I'll spearhead a campaign like Save Water or Save Girl Child or something like that. But what about the other 11 months? How are you pursuing this? And this all goes back to being a positive contributor in a society. We cannot, I reiterate, we cannot be consumers, continue to be consumers, and and expect everything to come our way in this world. It does not work that way, right? If you think your answer is no, that we are not blessed like Dhul Qarnain, then the follow-up question that I have is, what level of blessing do you think you have? There has to be, because one cannot say that I am not blessed with anything, right? Which is why I asked this question right in the beginning. Is there anyone who thinks that I'm not blessed with anything that I can contribute towards this Deen of Allah, right? So this is a question which needs to be worked upon. If your answer is really no, right, for this, that no, I don't think I'm blessed with things that I can do like Dhul Qarnain, but you're blessed with something else, then you need to find out what are you blessed with, right? Please understand, your contribution to serve the Deen of Allah is always tied to the blessing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not expecting, as we often give this example, for the mujahids of this ummah who fought for the sake of Allah, for the expansion of the boundaries of Islam, years and years over, to be narrating the hadiths of Rasulullah and make books out of it and have rims and rims of these hadiths narrated by them. And at the same time, the narrators like Abu Hurairah was not expected to go and go capture lands and do things like that. So everyone's contribution and the blessing are tied together, right? And no soul, no one is entrusted or weighed in or weighed over more than what they can take up. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wusaha, right? So our contribution is always tied to the blessing. But the question to ask for ourselves is my contribution up to the level? We have a choice. We have a clear choice that we can satisfy ourselves saying, yes, I'm okay where I am. Or take a step back and think about, is my contribution up to the level of the blessing that I have received? And as the brothers and sisters spoke up, technology is a ni'mah that none of our ancestors had. None at this level, certainly not. None of our ancestors. So we might actually sit here, crib over things, saying our ancestors in India did not do a job better, they could have done better, all that. But they did not have the blessing also. What they did, they will be answerable. But what we are going to do, we are answerable. right? We are answerable to our next generation, which is live. They will actually question us. If we are alive in front of them, they will ask us, what did you do for our lives to be in this state? What is your contribution? And of course, the ultimate asking is by Allah, right? So are you doing your fa'atba'a sababa, right? So he pursued, he used his resources, he marshaled his resources wisely and correctly. Are you doing the same? The question that I want to pose is this. For example, we want to do career changes. We have several of us, we know, or we ourselves have done career changes at some point of time during our careers. We have explored alternate careers, and this has been a notion that's going around in India, across the world, especially post-COVID, that people have switched careers, they have changed career paths entirely, they've taken U-turns, they've done several things like that. But as far as the serving Deen of Allah is concerned, have we done a similar exploration effort? I'm not saying, make this your full-time career. All I'm saying is the effort that we put in making a career change demands us to understand, explore, network, do hundreds of things, finding the alternatives. Have we done that level of exploration to find out where all can I actually serve the Deen of Allah? Or are we sitting back saying, yes, okay, I'll do one translation, I think for a week, and I'll be done with it, right? Yeah, that's like the minimum. Are we sitting at that minimum level? Right. Second, we upskill for our career development. Several of you on this call, or you probably know of people who have learned, for example, data sciences, machine learning, for the sake of career advancement. Question is, what's our upskill plan to serve the Deen of Allah? First one is understanding, implementing my current abilities for the serving of Deen of Allah. Second, exploring alternatives, where all can I actually serve the Deen of Allah. Third, I'm talking about how else can I upskill myself so that I can serve the Deen of Allah. Last but not the least, have I asked this question to myself? Where do I see myself a few years from now? Say 5 years. Sorry, say 5 years, right? Have I asked this question to myself? Have I, say 5 years, what would I be doing to serve the Deen of Allah? Excuse me. Have we wondered about this? That what I've done in the past, what I'm doing right now, and how will I serve the Deen of Allah going forward? And that's the essence of Atba' Sababa. He understood his resources, he marshaled them in the present for the future. He planned it out to cover the east and the west. Dhul Qarnain did that. Are we doing in terms of understanding the resource that we are blessed with, exploring the efforts that are required to expand our horizons, exploration of efforts that's required to upskill ourselves to get there, to do that, and also see where all do we want to be serving the Deen of Allah in a period of time from now for the future. To sum it up, the condition instead today is well called out in this, but in a way, in a hadith which is very much relevant to the discussion that we are having. So this is the hadith narrated by Amma Zainab bin Jash, wife of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Many of you have heard of it. Without getting into the details, this is again related to the Yajuj and Majuj. Rasulullah woke up one day and he was he was red in his face. So clearly he was tensed. So he himself told, the reason being that there is a hole that is opened up in the barrier of Yajuj and Majuj, the same barrier that we have talked about, that Dhul Qarnain with the help of the people raised. Now, having done that, now there is a hole that is come up. Okay, and you can clearly notice I actually intentionally did not get into the details of the ayah which talks about that Allah blocked them from either getting under the wall or over the wall or through the wall, right? So there's an ayah specifically talking about it. There's tafsir related to it. Because it's not a tafsir class, I didn't want to get into it. But the Yajuj Majuj were able to make a hole, and he held up his index finger and thumb and he showed that hole. Okay, and obviously Amma Zainab, she asked, O Messenger of Allah, are we going to be destroyed? Because Yajuj Majuj are signs of the destruction to come towards the end of towards the Day of Judgment. So she asked, will we be destroyed even if there are righteous people amongst us? Rasulullah's answer was yes, if evil increases. Tell me who in this gathering tells we are not in a position where evil is on the increasing mode. And someone would say, no, we're at the same state as we were a few years back. Evil is the same in society. I'm not saying just about the evil in terms of people being targeted. There are evils in terms of social evils and many more. Right? So that's the condition that we are in today. That's the condition that we are in today. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, what are we doing about it? Goes back to the same thing, to reiterate: identification of strength, working on them, implementing those strengths, ensuring that the strength is passed on to others or taught to others. Knowledge transfer, call it in simple terms, right? Very simple process, but needs to be applied going forward, right? Last but not the least, this is something that I already covered about. I just want to touch about the ikhlas portion, where it's by the mercy of Allah that we get to contribute, and not entirely or not at all due to our abilities or purely due to the drive that we have. You might have the drive to do the best of things, but you will not be able to do it unless there is tawfiq from Allah. But however, the first step has to be taken from our end. It is exactly like the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to people as muhtadun. There are multiple instances where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says muhtadun. And if you look at the linguistic analysis of this word muhtadun, there has to be the first step that the person who is being referred to there has to take towards guidance, and they get guided. It's not blank guidance, it's not uncalled for, it's not unsolicited, it's not like a insurance call that you're getting where you did not ask for it but you're getting it. No, it's exactly like where you seek out and you get that, right? So we need to seek out to serve the deen of Allah, and Allah will make our abilities in line with it. Allah will make these doors open up for us to contribute in meaningful manner. Okay, so with that, I would like to conclude that while the tawfiq to contribute is from Allah, we need to make the move to contribute, inshallah. Any questions, any suggestions, any thoughts that anyone would want to share? I will stop the recording at this point of time.